Hey Ayad, how are you doing?
Hi, Nikhil. Nice to see you after this time.
Likewise, likewise. So we have Ayad Chammas, who is a professional and an angel investor from the Middle East, from Gulf and MENA region. He's an authority in his field of expertise, and I'll be moderating this panel. My name is Nikhil Choudhary. I've been a founder and investor in construction and construction tech. It's my absolute pleasure, Ayad, to have you today with us speaking at F50 Global Capital Summit.
Thank you, Nikhil. Good morning to you and your esteemed guests. I am very glad to be here. Thanks to you and to David for inviting me to speak about the Contech in the MENA region. To give you a brief introduction about myself, I'm a construction and energy professional by trade. I'm an investor and startup mentor by passion. I'm based in Abu Dhabi. I've been living there for the past 10 years. During my 30 years career, I was part of motivated and talented construction teams. I led teams in delivering projects in the Middle East, Far East, CIS, and the United States. I am an investor in several startups in EV, PV, fintech, and digital transformation, particularly in the remote monitoring of construction domain. I have been fortunate that my career is at the nexus of energy, oil and gas, renewables, telecom, and digital transformation. I'm very delighted to be here. Over to you.
Great to have you. Great to have you with us, and a wonderful introduction. So let's get into, I believe you have some presentation that's going to help our audiences understand how the MENA and Gulf market ecosystem and investments look like. So I'll give the stage back to you, Ayad, and maybe you can start with the presentation so that our audiences can learn a little bit about investment opportunities in your region.
Absolutely, Nikhil. I'll just be sharing my screen with you. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning again, and thank you for having me. I prepared a brief presentation to give the audience, the viewers, an idea about the general climate of Contech, PropTech, and their trends in the MENA region. I will start by listing the common and commercially deployed tech applications. There are various 3D design software provided by well-established engineering companies, as well as planning and scheduling tools. There are material management systems and store warehouse management software. There are manpower management software, fleet management software, and laser scanning for existing facilities. Finally, there is the common off-the-shelf type of ERP software for various functionalities used by developers as well as construction companies. The next slide is regarding the tech verticals that are starting to emerge and pick up in the MENA market, especially after the 2 years lull in the Contech investing due to the COVID pandemic. This was when all the contractors and the developers scrambled to cut the cost in order to ensure their survival due to the additional costing pressures. Now things are getting better, and you can see companies starting to take up things like augmented reality for the design, drones, deploying ML for to manage their construction data and the other critical processes in construction. There are more than 100 to 150 medium-sized to large-sized construction contractors and developers in the MENA region. With it, when I say medium-sized, their construction, the turnover is between 100 million to half a $500 million in the various construction specializations. The smaller subcontractors registered in the MENA region are close to 1,000, and that makes for a lot of market, to deploy Contech and benefit from its various, functionalities. The next slide is on the order of magnitude on the value of projects being awarded. You can see from these numbers that there are almost consistent volume of awards between Q1 2021 and Q1 2022, with around $13 billion to $16 billion of construction and development projects awarded between the 2 years. The forecast for 2022 is around $60 billion worth of projects, which is almost consistent with 2021. And that's only in the Gulf region, the GCC region. And with the current oil prices, one can safely assume that spending on these projects will not slow down anytime soon, considering that the post-COVID housing demand, as well as the rising inflation rates. To give a magnitude again of the volume of construction being awarded compared to the overall value of the other projects, you can see that 50% or more in terms of value being awarded are construction projects compared to other sectors in the economies. The point here being is that spending on construction is going to be a major game changer for Contech in the next few years. In terms of numbers, and between 2019 and 2020, the value of construction projects awarded surpassed by huge margins all the other sectors. You can see here that even oil and gas falls lower than the awards that happened on the construction job. And that's, the largest portion being awarded of the project being by Saudi Arabia, and followed by the UAE, and then closely by Qatar and the other countries. And that's only for the GCC region. When we talk about investing, we talk about the investors' confidence level. And according to the survey done by the CEBC Venture Capital in the MENA region, they took the consensus of various VCs and to examine the confidence level in investing in the region. And with very few exceptions, the level of confidence in investing is positive for almost all of the countries, with exception to two countries where the political environment and there are socio-economic turmoil. UAE and Saudi Arabia being scored highest level of confidence among the participants in the survey. To understand better the level of digitization in each of the GCC countries, the MEET digitalization rating indicates the degree of digital transformation in construction versus the value of planned projects. And it's based on the perception of the respondents to the MEET construction survey, which was done in 2021. From this, you can see that all the countries are still experimenting with digital solutions. For example, BIMS is only being used on few of the larger projects in the region. I'm going to the key barriers to investing, which is something of more focus on when we talk about VCs and investors. This analysis, again done by the CEBC as well, is focused on clean tech startups. I found it quite informative and quite representative of the situation with Contech investing as well. I would say that this is an accurate reflection of the investment climate right now in the Contech startup ecosystem. The good thing is that the environment in the MENA and GCC has come a long way in terms of removing the bureaucratic hurdles for investing in startups. And there are hurdles like the lack of opportunities to invest and the lack of exit or scalability remain as an obvious concern. However, this is due to the lack of mature and serious VCs in the region to take up these challenges. Here we are at the end of the presentation. So thanks again. And I'm open to any questions you or the viewers might want to ask.
Great, great. Thank you, Ayad. Thank you. That was very informative, especially, the Middle East, the Gulf and MENA markets. People are always wondering, what would it take for startups to enter those markets? I know there has been a lot of push from some countries from the Gulf, such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE together have been pushing for more innovation and more innovative startups to happen. And I know that they want homeschooled startups to take more charge of the digitization process. So this presentation was really helpful, really impactful. I have a few questions if you don't mind answering.
Please.
So there are a lot of when we talk about tech innovation, we come to Silicon Valley. It's seen as a hub of innovation, and there are a lot of startups. They're doing amazing work in the Northern Hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere. And what's your take on the pricing for these technology startups compared to relative to how their pricing model works in the Western world versus deploying that pricing model in let's say Southeast Asia or Gulf or MENA region? I'd love to hear your insights on it.
So Contech in the MENA region remains exclusive to a few large companies who have huge R&D budgets, and that's the reason why it's still very expensive and not affordable, mainly because the work is being developed on the project and it's always work in progress. Of course, there are a few exceptions to the rule. The scope and the functionalities are usually defined by IT professionals or IT departments with little feedback or intervention from the construction experts. The result is cost prohibitive for the end users. For hundreds of smaller size construction companies in the MENA region, who need to remain competitive, digitalization still remains unattainable. And here is where entrepreneurs and startups can fill this innovation gap, drawing from their years of experience and the drive to innovate commercially viable and practical solutions that these smaller companies can adopt in volumes and in bulks. If you compare to the EU and the US, there are around 2,000 Contech and PropTech startups globally. Very few of them have originated or set up their shop and base in the MENA region. And that's because of that reason I mentioned. They are very expensive and they can only be afforded by the larger developers.
So would you recommend for startups who want to enter the Gulf and MENA markets to relook at their pricing model and to bring more reasonable pricing tier to different parts of the world which are still developing economies?
Absolutely. Because the environment is exclusive at this stage, there is a huge chance for startups with efficiencies to come in, drop their prices, and take share of the market. Great,
great. Why is it that Contech, PropTech is still lagging compared to Europe and Northern America? I know there's a lot of, like I said before, there's a lot of government push. Entrepreneurs and startups in your region have a lot of subsidies and a lot of opportunities from the government. Why is it that we do not see yet a lot of innovation coming out of that region?
That's a good question. So having been involved in startups for the last decade, I can say that past 3 years have been very difficult for construction contractors and developers alike. The digital awakening that came over the region during the last decade, it came to a stop during COVID. Even though COVID accelerated digital transformation for many industries like fintech, e-commerce, edtech, health tech, that wasn't the case for construction industries. As I said, the contractors were scrambling to cut costs and reduce budget, and the biggest loser was the R&D and the technology aspect of it. Another reason is the benchmarking. It's not easy to quantify savings or gains from a digital solutions on a project or for a construction company's performance, or even to calculate the ROI from a digital investment. How do you break down the costs and compare low-tech to high-tech building processes? Is that difficult? My last thought on this would be that the Contech innovation has been focused on the areas where only roughly 10% of the typical project value is. By this, I mean the design phase. You find a lot of software that deal with design and enabling the designers to do work in the construction project. That's only 10% of the whole life cycle of the project. Procurement and construction phases put together weigh around 80% of the typical project value. Few Contech companies, especially in the MENA region, focus on the construction and procurement phases of the project. There remains a huge value to be realized in the innovation, especially targeting these two phases of the construction process.
Great insights. What is your guidance to investors who have not invested in the Gulf and MENA region? What are your inputs for them, for the investors who wish to invest in Contech startups in the MENA and GCC region?
First, I would say have courage. There is great value to be unlocked and to be gained from the region's nascent Contech environment. The startup ecosystem is just getting heated up right now. And there are many areas in Contech that can be real game changers. As I mentioned in my presentation, I've listed down some of the Contech domains that started to emerge between last year and this year. And in the year 2022, this year, the forecast for projects is going to exceed $60 billion in the GCC alone. So there's a lot of opportunity, and VCs should not be hesitant to come in and test the waters and start setting up the shops there. Establishing Contech and PropTech funds in the region would be a first. There is going to be a first mover advantage to that because there is still not a deeply embedded Contech VC culture in the area. Also, I would advise to invest in the areas of the industry where it is impactful. For example, tools that help project managers draft better contracts, tools that can predict delays, help companies to manage the critical processes and efficiencies are key and essential for construction contractors. So for the construction industry, it's all about time and material. Therefore, innovation that can identify and predict and solve critical problems in those two areas are always needed, and they will gain grounds very quickly in here. There are plenty of lessons learned in the industry, as you know, and many get repeated due to the lack of built-in digital solutions to assist, predict them, and support the project manager and the construction company or developer to deal with them for future projects. In my opinion, this is the holy grail for startups in the region.
Great, holy grail for startups. I like it. So coming to our last question, you have yourself been an angel investor. You have actually invested in a few very unique startups in America too. So this question goes back to you on what do you look for in as an investment when you're investing in a Contech or PropTech startup. And that's part one of my question. And part two of the question is, what are the current challenges facing the startup ecosystem in the MENA and GCC region?
Great question, Nikhil. So I've been dealing with construction for a long time, and it's a highly fragmented and complex industry, as you know. This can be a downside, but it's also a very good side for innovation. When there are many problems, there are many solutions. So when I look at startup, I look at a few key parameters. First, I look at the special project domain niche knowledge of the founders. There is no lack of subject matter expert in construction, but what's lacking, I find, mostly are founders, entrepreneurs who can combine the digital and the material world in a single startup. This also can be taught and even mentored over time. I see a lot of skill set coming out in the market in a disruptive way, but with disproportionate and inadequate funding. So that's a challenge. In the GCC and MENA regions, digital revolution has been embraced, and the region is slowly and surely advancing towards the democratizing of the technology in construction. I mentioned few verticals in my presentation are evidence to that. End users are becoming more hypersensitive to cost in the post-COVID environment, and many projects end up either behind schedule or over budget. There is little tolerance for experimentation on the job for the new solutions. And when the innovation is done on the startup's time and cost, and viable solution is made ready for the end user to implement at the time of the project, there will definitely be adoption. So somebody has to cross that hurdle and take the first risk and deploy their expertise and the funding in order to have a ready available solution for adoption. The future is bright for the commercially adoptable Contech solutions at the right mix of construction and digital solution professionals. They can bridge the gap and augment it. The result in the coming years, we can see in terms of savings of hundreds of millions of dollars for hundreds of companies in terms of R&D costs, and that will eventually create scalable win-win solutions for all the parties involved.
Great answers and great insights. Thank you, Ayad. That brings us to the end of our session. I really enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully you keep on investing in Contech startups and supporting entrepreneurs in your region as well as the world. Really appreciate your time, and thank you for being with us today at F50 Global Capital Summit. Thank you, Ayad.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much, and have a great day ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.